The man, the myth, the legend is back. Matthew H. Trent. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Fantastic.
It is officially LSU and A&M week. And, you know, I have been asking for you, and most people have been asking for you to come back on the show. And the first question that I have for you, since it is LSU and A&M week, how have you been doing? We haven't seen you in such a long time.
Fantastic. It's crazy because I'm still relatively, so I live now in right outside of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So I'm still kind of relatively in LSU country. There's actually a huge LSU contingency here in South Mississippi, but I'm also in Mississippi State, Ole Miss. There's even some Alabama. I mean, I'm just getting like flooded with the SEC West every single day, every time I turn around. So it's good. It's awesome.
Well, Corey Rogers says, holy shit, it's Matt Trent. Stephen Fry says the madman is back. So I think I did pick a very good guess for this Wednesday. Now, just in case somebody doesn't know of our, connection in reference to you coming on every week and us talking about LSU athletics, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is. Welcome back. Welcome home is what I should say. This is Matthew Trent. I'm glad that you're here, man.
Yeah, it honestly feels really good. I haven't done any media-centric anything in a year. And I used to do your show weekly, right?
Yes.
So this is like, I'm back in the saddle. Back in the saddle again.
Well, just for context, you used to cover A&M, and you went a little viral 2 years ago when you were on your way to College Station, and you gave us the reasoning behind the 12th man that it might have been fake, and A&M fans kind of got mad at us.
Well, it's not might have been. It literally. Again, if you're new to your show, if you're new to me, if you're new to A&M, the story of the 12th man is pretty legendary. I mean, it is. I mean, E. King Gill, I believe there's still a statue. I mean, look, they're ripping down statues left and right nowadays. So I don't know. There could be still one there in College Station. There could not be. But I think there's an E. King Gill statue still there. He is the 12th man. As the story goes, one legendary fall afternoon, they're playing a football game. I don't know who it is. Don't really care. A&M will probably lose. And A&M is short some guys due to one instance of another, an injury, whatever. So the coach at the time, again, as the story goes, maybe have been embellished for dramatic purposes, looks up into the stands and he says, is there anyone in the stands? Is there any proud Aggie that will come down here and stand on the sideline and be the 12th man to help fuel this football team? And E. King Gill raises his hand and said, yep, I'll do it. I will come down there and I will get ready to suit up for the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies. He did. Puts on a uniform, puts on leather helmet, I'm assuming, cleats, the whole gambit, stands on the sideline. Did not play a second in that game. Like he didn't play in the game. So then it's such a mantra for A&M, being on the sidelines, watching the adults play, watching everyone else win and have success while you're not doing anything. It's so Aggie, it hurts. It's so Aggie, it hurts. But these lunatics, they make like a memorial of this man. He is a legend in Aggie lore. Now, eventually, he did get playing time, became, I think he was a running back at some point, something to that degree. So he did play eventually, but the legendary game where the legend of E. King Gill was born, he played 0 minutes. How fitting is that?
It's fitting because what their fan base is at the current moment, right?
But look, okay, think about LSU. Think about the statues outside LSU. Billy Cannon, if I'm not mistaken, is the statue outside of Tiger Stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you know this or not, but he won a Heisman Trophy. So Billy Cannon statue, E. King Gill statue. Pretty big discrepancy between the.
When I think of every time you come on here during A&M week and I hear that story, you know what every time I think is? It's like, could you imagine being in the stands and Brian Kelly asking you that question and you being half drunk, be like, I'm right here. The entire studio went without power.
Dude, I was like, gosh, A&M God's at it again, not letting us have any fun.
No doubt. Well, and that was the thing. I think Billy Lucci pulled the string.
That's all right. I came prepared. Come on, man. We're back. We're back in the saddle. Let's get this thing going. Come on.
Oh, my God. This is going exactly how I thought it'd go. Matt Trent. So the interns are texting me during the show, like, do you want us to go in there? I'm like, no, just stay off. And when they're making the graphic for tonight, do you notice what your name says right here?
At Twitterless?
I mean, Elon should give you your Twitter back.
Funny story. I have not been on Twitter since I left TV in over a year. People will send me stuff and I'll view it. But in terms of me using it to gather information or just entertainment, haven't used it one time.
Well, it's probably for the best because that place is a toxic mess.
No, that place? No, it's great.
I mean, by the way, I don't know, but you saw that, a pretty prominent A&M booster, or not booster, but media corps is going after Garrett Nussmeier for saying Kyle Field is not better than LSU. Well, look, you've been to both places and games in both places. In this for us right now, if you had to line up today the scarier place to play in A&M or Tiger Stadium or Kyle Field or Death Valley, which one's been is a better atmosphere?
All right, I'm going to split a hair here because I do have two different opinions here. What is the tougher atmosphere to play in with regards to fans, atmosphere, everything like that? Hands down, Death Valley. Not even a question. I've seen grown men throw beers at referees. No, I'm not even kidding. I've seen them throw beers at referees and have their kids throw beers at referees as they're making their way out of the stadium. That's a true story. I will say, in terms of how loud one of them is, I was in College Station, I want to say 2017, when Darius Geis set the freshman SEC rushing record when he ran for 200-some yards against A&M. I think it was a Thursday night game, maybe.
It might have been a Thanksgiving night game. You might
have Saturday. Yeah, it was a week of Thanksgiving. I knew that. That is the loudest stadium I've ever been in. No doubt.
Really?
No doubt. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a tougher environment, but in terms of octaves and registering sound and loudness, Kyle Field can get pretty loud, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what – look, and LSU's going there this week. We'll finally get to the game here in just a minute. But, look, you spent a lot of time at A&M, and I got to – you've seen that program for a while now. I got to ask you this out of the gate. Kind of taking a step back out of it and seeing Mike Elko come in for Jimbo and seeing the success that he's had so far this year, are you a little taken back by the success that he's had this year so far?
No, because I think that with a guy look, the problem with Jimbo is he was hired already on the downward path of his coaching career, right?
Right.
Some of the stuff that he did offensively just can't work in today's college game. He's trying to spread you out and use two tight ends.
Right.
Really? What are we doing?
And when you do that, you got to have a Travis Kelce type.
Dude, you got to have a Gronk and Travis Kelce to do that. Right. You got to have a dude that can spread you out in zone, but can beat a linebacker in man. And he just didn't have that. He just didn't have it. And there was other, there's a myriad of different things that went on there, whatever. But Mike Elko, I think, is just such a little bit calmer presence. I think he's got a more focused scope on what he wants to do with a football team. And when you have a defensive-minded guy like that, dude, the stuff that he did at Duke, Like, do you know how hard that is to win at Duke? It's like Vandy. Like, it's like Vandy, even though it's in the ACC, which is a supremely inferior conference compared to the SEC. Like, you win what, like 8-9 games at Duke, dude? That's pretty good. And
it's what it got him hired ultimately at A&M, right? Because he was having so much success.
And I thought he was good as DC there. What was it? 21.
Yeah, 21. Yeah,
22, something like that. I thought he was really good. Then he leaves and takes the Duke job, and then comes back. I like him. I do, and it's hard for me to like really like an A&M football coach. I mean, it is. I mean, it's just been a dumpster fire because that's the thing, dude. Is like A&M doesn't realize that like once they stop taking themselves seriously, we'll take them seriously.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree with that.
Like what I always love, and let me tell you, please let me on here after they play Texas. Please let me on here.
Okay, you can come right back.
Oh my God, that is going to be an absolute disaster if Texas wins. I mean, Billy Lucci might kill himself, and I'm like, and I love Luch. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you. Because there's always been, since Texas left the Big 12, since A&M left the Big 12 to go to the SEC, there's always been that what if. Like, oh, what if they would have played? Well, you guys, your schedule sucked, and we won this bowl, and there's always been that rivalry. But A&M fans don't understand that Texas doesn't really give a flying you-know-what about A&M. They're, honestly, in my opinion, I think a lot of Texas fans will tell you, they hate Oklahoma more than they do A&M.
Really?
In terms of a rivalry, because think about it. The Red River rivalry, it's at the Cotton Bowl. It's at a neutral site stadium. It's based around the Texas State Fair in Dallas. So it's a much bigger presence. It's a much bigger TV audience. And there's been really no reason for people to care about A&M and Texas in football because they hadn't played in over a decade. So that Texas and Oklahoma rivalry has just gotten bigger. But A&M's always like the little brother screaming like, we matter. But they're playing in the sandbox and everybody else is inside playing PlayStation,
Right.
And I think some Texas fans will tell you, and I think some Oklahoma fans will tell you, and I think admittedly some Aggie fans will tell you, Texas is always on Texas A&M's mind. A&M is not always on Texas's mind.
That's very interesting. You wonder how much it changes too now that they're in the SEC, if it does. But I got to ask you this. You're a baseball guy. You play college baseball. Have you ever seen something like what Jim Schlossnagle did?
How bad was that?
Dude, you talk about A&M and coaches. That's got to be the wildest shit that I've ever seen. And I'm not trying to stick up for A&M, but come on. And then leaving A&M to go to Texas of all places.
And look, that has happened before. I don't think with coaches, but there have been players. I remember when I was at A&M, there was a really good basketball player, Danny Williams, who played for Gary Blair and A&M women. She was really good shooter. And she used her 5th year to go to Texas, and people went nuts. You just don't do that. Like, that'd be like a kid leaving North Carolina going to Duke or vice versa. Like, it's just bad. But when you do it with a coach, and a coach that couldn't even justify the fact that he just blatantly lied and blatantly had everything set up way before that last press conference.
No doubt. And then attack the A&M TexAgs media member when he said, "Hey, are you going to Texas?"
And it was just a weird, because then you knew when a coach gets like that pissed off at a question, it's either super, super true or that's not the first time he's heard that rumor or something about him. I'm telling you, when you get that reaction, there's a little bit more underneath the smoke and mirrors.
Right.
When he goes, especially a baseball coach, like a dude that a guy that, college baseball doesn't get, it's getting better. The game is growing, but it doesn't get the national notoriety that it should. So these guys,
it does now.
dude. Just and couldn't even backtrack out of it. Like after when his introductory press conference, everything, like, couldn't give a formidable answer of, hey, why did you lie to the entire fan base and say that you were coming back and that you left TCU for this job and that was the only job you were going to have for the rest of your life? Bad, dude. It was bad. I loved it though. I love chaos. You know that.
Yeah, I love the chaos too. But man, I got to be real with you. There's somebody in college baseball that you and I know that's very well connected, and he told me that this was happening like 2 weeks before, and I just couldn't believe him because, Matt, they almost won a national title. And my thought was, did he throw that game 3? Because I don't think he managed it in the right way, not the way that he had been managing the SEC, not what he had been doing all year. And I'm like, that's just sleazy, dude. Like, it's sleazy all around in so many different ways, but dude, a lot of people think he's sleazy. So, I mean,
I've still got some buddies that are around the program and that are really close to the baseball program in various different roles. I would say a good portion of people at A&M weren't really upset that he's not there anymore. They're not upset that he left. They're upset that he left and went to Texas, I guess is what I'm saying. And in the manner that he did.
Well, I'm going to leave this here. But, however, I think that his speed and what he likes to do is more fit for Austin.
Well, look. That's why Sarkisian's there, right? It's why Jeff Banks. It's why Jeff Banks is there.
I'm just going to,
Pole Assassin is living a great life in Austin.
I mean, when you get $4 million fully guaranteed as a baseball coach, that's a lot of assless chaps you can buy. That's all I'm going to say on that. Matt Trent, our guest, good to have you back, man. All right, so LSU does play A&M this week. Let's get a little serious here. I got to ask you a couple questions. Surprise. Well, let me ask you this first. LSU post Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, and they had some struggles early, but have found a way to get some quality wins here of late. What has just been your overall assessment of LSU this year, football-wise?
First, I want to wind the clock back to around this time last year because you mentioned Jaden Daniels. And this entire fan base was bashing Jaden Daniels, said he sucked, said he ran the ball too much, held the ball too much, he wasn't the right guy, and that Garrett Nece should start and all that stuff. And honestly, two of the only people on that media corps that said the contrary are on this show right now. And
this is very true.
And a lot of people gave us a lot of crap. But not only did he win a lot of games, he won the Heisman. And that's given to the best player in college football. I don't know if you know that. Not only did he do that, he was drafted pretty high in the NFL draft. And he took one of the worst, if not the worst, teams. He's got them in playoff contention right now, even early.
He's completing 80% of his passes.
Being right's a full-time job, Blake.
Now that you're out of media, we can say this. We used to send text to one another.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, about the beating that we were taking over Jaden Daniels in 22.
Oh, yeah. It was dudes that was going out there and being like, Jaden Daniels sucks. Never been to one practice. Hadn't been to one practice where Brian Kelly, and I think a lot of the media members applauded Brian Kelly for this. I mean, he would let us come and stay for the entirety of practice.
No.
So you saw everything from indie drills to team to everything. And Jaden Daniels was lighting people up. But you go out there and you play like that. And I'll never forget, I said that, and that the Southern game comes up and Garrett Nece comes in, and it was so fitting. It took him 3 passes to throw a pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was listening to some of your show earlier, and I'll be honest, I have not watched a ton of LSU football this year.
Okay.
I have not. I watched the USC game, watched the South Carolina game, a little bit of the Ole Miss game, and I think that was pretty much it. it's the same song and dance that everyone has said since he stepped on campus in Baton Rouge. Just take care of the mother flipping football.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Blake, I mean, you probably can go more in depth than I can, but it's decision making. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been. That's all it's ever going to be. Kid's supremely talented. Just take care of the freaking football.
Both of them in a win. Let me ask you this question then. Both of them in a win would be a top of the SEC. What does it say for both of them? Like, what does it say for Brian Kelly in year 3? And what does it say for A&M? Like, if A&M is halfway through the year and they're the number 1 team in the SEC standings, what's the perception of both of these programs if they win?
Wait, Brian Kelly. Oh, he's still at LSU? He's not at Michigan, right? So I thought, oh, okay, that's my bad. See, I told you I hadn't watched a lot of football. I firmly believe that he's been coaching Michigan this year. That's my bad. I could have sworn I heard somewhere that he was going to Michigan. Am I wrong? Have I just been out of the loop?
There was rumors that he was going there, yes.
Okay. I thought I might have just heard somebody do a rant and pretty much already had him buying a house in Ann Arbor, but I've been out of it for a while, man. I don't know. What was your question again?
What does it say for Brian Kelly if he wins and halfway through the year he's in the SEC standings, considering some of the hate that he's taken versus A&M and Elko? The reason I ask you that question is because when I look at A&M and like all the shit that people like we give them and everything that they are, man, if they're halfway through a year and they win and they're in the top of the SEC at halfway through the year, I mean, that's a big accomplishment for them.
See, when you asked me that and you said, what does it mean? And I said, the first thing that came to my mind was nothing. Because does that shock you? Is it going to shock you?
At A&M, yes. At LSU, no.
Okay, you're down Harold Perkins, maybe. You're I mean, how many running backs do we have now? I saw Katie Burn is probable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't shock me. Like, that's the thing, dude. It's like nothing that's happened since Brian Kelly has been in Baton Rouge has shocked me because his resume says it shouldn't. He wins, and he's crazy smart and crazy intelligent, but I don't understand. I get a text from my father-in-law weekly, fire Brian Kelly. True story. I fire Brian Kelly. Why?
I mean, and that's the thing. If he wins, then he's the top of the SEC. He goes from 0 to hero in 3 weeks.
But tell me, I'm not caught up on anything. What's been the problem this year?
I think that almost losing to South Carolina and then the USC loss, now that USC's bad, I think that that's why people are, kind of grumbling. But now because the SEC is shaken out and that you're a game away of being atop the SEC by yourself, Bama's beatable. They've lost two. I mean, so I think that people didn't allow the season to play out as they probably should.
LSU fans? No. You mean LSU fans are taking one game at the beginning of the season and labeling it the entire year? Couldn't be.
I mean, you lost the game one in Brian Kelly's first game, then won the West.
Yeah, but you look like, and you and I talked about this too. I look at that game, and I look at the South Carolina game. I believe I think about the South Carolina game, the 4th and 1 call on the 1-inch line. Beautiful play design by Joe Sloan. Beautiful play call. But Caleb Jackson, I think, runs into Garrett Nece.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the running back that was open?
Josh Williams.
Open. No fault of Garrett's. He has his running back run into him. Still is athletic enough to maintain some semblance of balance and get a throw off relatively accurately, I might add, considering –
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
It was just out of bounds.
And and the penalties in the South Carolina game, like the Major Burns stuff, the other BS going around the game, like you can argue six half dozen ways another that, well, it's coaching. Yeah, maybe. But in terms of X's and O's and what I'm calling versus what I'm not, dude, what's the problem? Tell me what's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's not one yet. And like, look, I don't believe you when you were being sarcastic about some of these things you said, but at the same time, like last week against Arkansas, okay, dude, I mean, it was the most Brian Kelly game that best game that they've ever coached. Sloan, BK, all of them.
But you're acting like that shocks you.
Can I be real with you? The execution does shock me, especially at quarterback. Look, I don't care what anybody tells me. I look at his stat. You can look at a stat sheet and say he had no touchdowns. Does not bother me at all, because how did the game play out in reality and the reaction to decision making, right? Like, I mean, Matt, I mean, it comes down to everything. I don't think people realize, like, I don't want him being 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Because
but this is what I think sometimes gets in the way of not just LSU fans, or really any really hardcore football fans. Your fandom is tribal, no matter if it's your team or your player, right? So
very true.
If I'm a Garrett Nece guy and I've been waving that flag forever, I want him to throw 300 yards. I want him to throw 4 touchdowns every game with no picks and lead us to 3 touchdown victories. But if you do that and you lose, somehow fans are still like, oh man, well, my choice won,
right.
It's tribal. So the grand scheme of things, LSU fans, just like any other fans, are happy when what? The team wins. So they win, but Garrett doesn't throw a touchdown. It's like, oh, we're terrible. No, you won. And like you said, you win today, you're alone. I mean, Saturday, you're alone in the SEC West standings. What's the problem? What's the problem?
I don't know. Let me ask you this. What is A&M going to be like if they're atop the SEC? Because you know that they're coming with shit. Like,
insufferable.
Right.
Insufferable. And I'm being so serious.
Well, let me add on to that question then. If A&M does win, and I know that they're going to be insufferable, but here's the question that I start having. With what they've done in NIL, what they're doing in recruiting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if a good coach is in there, they can be solid, right? Like, I mean, it's not like we make fun of A&M so much, but they've had bad coaching situations. With a right head coach in there, they can do some good things because of just overall dynamic of A&M.
November still the 11th month of the year?
Yes.
Okay. They still play football in the 11th month of the year, A&M?
They do.
Yeah, they'll blow it. Blake, I know you're laughing. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I don't know why you're laughing. I don't know why it's funny to you. It's serious. November in Texas and facts are 3 of A&M's biggest rivals. Blake, I'm not lying.
I never said you were lying. It's funny because it's true.
I mean, look at 20.
I'm crying.
20. Gosh, let's see. To 15? No, 16. 15 or 16 when they were in the playoff race. They were in the playoff race. They were the 4th team in the first playoff rankings or whatever, made the playoff for the first time in history, played Mississippi State, who was god-awful, lost, got blown out in Starkville, and then I believe didn't even end the year ranked and played in the Texas Bowl, which is their favorite bowl to play in because they're so terrible. I'll tell you a great story too.
Do it.
Last year, 2 years ago. No. Did they play it? They didn't play at A&M last year, right? 2 years ago, right?
They played at A&M 2 years ago. Yeah, when they lost. Right.
I'm there pregame, and Baton Rouge attorney was there on field, hanging out.
Oh, okay.
It was his first time at Kyle Field, and I would consider him I think he went to LSU. He's a pretty big Tiger fan, but doesn't really have, general knowledge in depth of every team.
Fair.
So we're looking around, and it's his first time seeing Kyle Field, which is gorgeous. Architecture is unbelievable. It really is. And we're sitting there, and you get to midfield, and you look around, and you're like, this place is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking around, and we're talking. He's like, man, this is this just like smells like awesome. You know what I mean? It's just awesome. I turned around and said, yeah, smells like 7 and 5 to me. Again, don't know why you're laughing. History repeats itself every single year for A&M. Like, I'm not lying. Why are you laughing? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm telling you the absolute truth, and that's the problem.
Because this is why I'm really laughing. Everything that I thought that you making your reappearance on this show would be like is coming to fruition.
Blake, whenever they beat a team from the Big 12 in any sport, especially Texas, but like in football or anything, especially in football, they chant SEC, SEC as the team's leaving. How many SEC championship games has A&M football appeared in?
0. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that to your point, there is something that I've been thinking about all week. A lot of people have been saying that there's a lot of pressure on Brian Kelly to win this game, and I agree that there is a lot of pressure. However, I don't think people realize the pressure of what A&M wants to be, right? Like the perception of what they want to be is not reality, and I think that there's a lot of pressure on that too.
When you say, okay, let's break that down for both sides.
Yeah,
pressure on Brian Kelly for what?
Pressure on Brian Kelly because if you're 2 losses before November, there are some losable games in November that you can have. I mean, you still do have to play Alabama, and I think that at minimum in year 3, Matt, regardless if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, they want a playoff appearance. I don't think LSU fans right now, and the pulse that I have on them, or just myself in general as just a general fan, if Brian Kelly doesn't make the playoff this year, I think a lot of people will be disappointed. But if he does make it, I think that people would be like, okay, at least we're seeing progress on certain situations. In reference to A&M, I think that they're the guy at the bar who's got the jacked up truck, the Carolina lean, okay? They're trying to be the reality of what their perception is on social media, right? They're the guy on social media that thinks that he's got a big presence and that he's a big deal. And look, if doing things right, I think they can be. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of pressure to win this game because they have, Matt, their schedule after LSU, I'm just going to tell you, it is favorable. It's very favorable. Like they could win out outside of LSU besides Texas. They could. They're good enough. But like you said, I think that they'll fall. But I think that that's just my overall read on both of them.
November still the 11th month of the year?
It is.
Come on, dude. Like, that's the thing. You gotta show me something else to make me think. What's the great Maya Angelou quote? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. A&M's got decades upon decades of data of showing us who they are in 2 conferences, and it's the same person every single year.
Matt, imagine not winning a national championship in anything besides literally meat judging since 1939.
Their first national championship was the same year that Nazi Germany invaded Poland.
It's true.
I'm going to say that one more time. Nazi Germany invaded Poland, 1939.
This is very true. Didn't know that we were getting there. But, yes, that is correct.
1939 years. Come on, dude.
You're fair. You're fair. You know, the chat is loving you right now. They want you back.
I've kind of noticed that I got a little bit of a lazy eye on my left eye here since I left TV. I'm kind of upset about it. I'm just gonna I might get a pirate patch for next time. I'm just noticing this.
Have you ever seen the movie Dodgeball?
Oh, of course.
Do you remember when when the pirate got his haircut and his beard
Yeah,
trimmed?
it's like, oh, it's Steve the Pirate.
If you were an eye patch, you could pass as Steve the Pirate in a taller version.
I'm just saying, dude. Like, that's the one thing that I think, and I've taught, and you're the same way too. Which, by the way, let's take what's our time constraints on this thing?
I don't really have one.
Okay, I'm going to take a moment to brag on you for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because you have had a fantastic year. Bleacher Report like flew you up to New York City to like promote the new college football game.
That is correct. Me and Megan went. Yes.
Who does that?
Bleacher Report.
But what type of people do that?
I don't know.
Big-headed
podcast guys. That's what I think.
Dopey-faced podcast.
Oh, dopey-faced podcast guys. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it look like I've ever been on dope?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. But by the way, that was a really fun trip.
Not gonna lie, I'm 30. I turned 37 yesterday. Okay.
Yes, I told you happy birthday. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. I'm losing my hair and my mind at this point, so that's great. And I had not bought a gaming system since college. Just didn't really fit, grew out of it, kind of. And I like saw that they were bringing back the college football game, and I was like, I don't know. And I like watched a little bit of because you and Joe streamed, right?
Yes.
And I was like, that's kind of sick. I kind of might have to do that. So, got a PlayStation 5.
Okay.
Been neglecting my wife and.
Hey, by the way.
Thank you.
By the way, I just want two things. That number one, that video got 292,000 views on YouTube. That's number one. Okay. Number two, listen, I feel like I did myself and the great state of Louisiana a lot of favors because I went on the road in a hostile environment, a place I've never been, and came away with the win. It's kind of like what Brian Kelly and LSU is going to do this weekend. Don't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I again, but going back to what I was getting ready to say is like you and I are pretty much similar where one of our biggest strengths and biggest faults is that we see everything exactly how it is.
Yes.
Like that's what I thought was my biggest problem in TV is that I saw it for what it was. I saw like.
And you don't make a lot of friends that way.
And you don't. And I was just like, I'm not. Like I felt like I never lied when I went on TV or I did your show or anybody else's podcast were popped on. And it got me a lot of hate, but like, that's just how I saw it. And it was what was in front of me. There were no narratives to spin. There was obviously times where you promote certain things, stories, angles, whatever. Sure. Mm-hmm. But like, we talk about that all the time. It's like, I don't see how nobody sees it like we do because it's right out in front of our face. But anyway.
Well, listen, because I got labeled this week because it happens at least once a month. This guy's doing this for clicks. Okay. Well, number one, I don't necessarily need the clicks, but if I did, okay, what I would say is I would lean in and say that Garrett Nece did no wrong. Joe Salome did no wrong. Brian Kelly's on the hot seat, or that Blake Baker, the GOAT, I would say all those things. Whit Weeks, the honky badger is what they're calling him now.
That's good.
That's a really good one. You got to give the state this one. They call them the honky badger. That's really good.
That's really good.
If I wanted to engagement farm, I would do what I see on social media every day, all day. Okay. But I'm not going to do that. Again, I think Matt, here's what I truly believe about that situation I'm just 100%. I think the kid's on the borderline of doing something special. If he limits his mistakes in decision-making, dude, he's got the ability. And I don't think people fully understand me saying that, right? Like I've said it 100,000 times, but they hear the negative, right? That's all that they hear. Most people hear. But, like, I'm going to tell you the truth. The reason I'm picking LSU to beat A&M is because of him, because I think he is going to be a better decision maker. I think Joe being in his ear has gotten to him. I really do. So, like, those are the situations that you're in. By the way, me and you talked about this, and this is a private conversation that we had. And the last thing I'll get to with you here, you did say year 3 Brian Kelly would probably be in there and be in the mix in it. So, you just the resume thing again on that was why you were always saying that?
It's just the 3rd and 4th year are the biggest for any coach.
Right.
So the 3rd year, you can argue and say when you take over, you don't really have time to recruit. You kind of just assume that team.
By the way, see what I mean?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Make any sense.
I mean, this guy's always on my ass anyway, but again, I literally just said he's on the borderline of being elite.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, dude, I'm telling you, athleticism wise, Garrett Nece is a first round talent.
Oh, heavens, yes.
You can't tell me. Can't tell me otherwise.
But you gotta limit the decision making.
But what are we talking about?
We're talking about Brian Kelly in year 3.
Yeah.
Saying we were on the phone when that happened, remember? Right.
First year when you assume a team, you're very limited in what you can do to bring in your type of guys in. Okay. So then year 2, give or take some guys that have committed early, those are kind of your guys. And then year 3, you get those guys in, but the guys that are already there are really assimilating to your system. Year 4, those dudes that you get are now sophomores, maybe some juniors. They're kind of your guys or whatever. I mean, it's a numbers game. Whoever's there when you assume the team, which when Brian Kelly took over, they had what?
39,
30 some scholarship dudes. So that is just a numbers game with any coach. But you see it, dude. Like, look at Garrett Nece. I mean, I would love to tell you some of the conversations I've had with Joe Sloan when I was there, but Joe Sloan's on his ass.
I know.
On his ass. And it has helped. And Garrett will tell you that. And you can see it.
No doubt.
He comes in there and he commands a huddle, he commands a line, he commands an offense. You can just see it. Look at the biggest jump with Jaden between the first year he was in LSU and the second. It's night and day.
Well, and not it's prevalent in Nuss because he's got a ball on every play when you offensively. Dude, I look at a guy like Major Burns the last 2 weeks. It's something, man. It's always something about people that have confidence that you find out who the real like what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it's always incredible to me to watch a guy like Major Burns have massive plays the last 2 weeks. And I'm just like, hey, man, this guy's not going to get the love. But, man, that tackle that he had on first down, then he had a tackle on second down, and then he had a PBU. And I'm like, hey, man, that's insane. Like, that's absolutely insane.
I mean, like I said, athleticism-wise, he's more athletic than Joe Burrow.
You talking about Garrett?
Yeah. Got a way better arm than Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Athletic.
I think that you're right in this sense. I do think that he has the athletic ability, even if it's even comparable, right? The mentality is different.
Joe Burrow has beaten everybody since 5th grade between the years.
No doubt.
But I mean, no question about it. And I think Garrett's got that. Dude, it's an experience.
It's got to get unlocked.
This is his first year as the full-time starter every single game. I think he's doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because like people don't understand, like taking over an offense like this with these many playmakers, with this fan base in that stadium, with this level of a standard, that's not easy.
At all.
And Garrett will probably tell you it weighs on you sometimes when you can't meet that standard. And then you start trying to press. Then you start trying to do things outside of your ability, and then that's where the BS happens.
It's 100%. It's 1,000% what happened against Ole Miss.
Because it's just like anything. It's kind of like golf. Like guys don't win golf tournaments because they make unreal shots. They do because they have good misses. when you have good misses and your misses and your good shots, like the margin is really slow, that's when guys win golf tournaments and win.
Right. That's why they always call it a game of inches, man.
So that's like football. When your mistakes are quote unquote good mistakes and the margin is really small, that's where you win football games.
I agree. And I think he's going to do it. That's why I think they go in there and win. All right, Matt Trent. Buddy, fantastic to see you. Sorry that our internet went out for 10 minutes, but it was what it was. But I'm so glad that you made an appearance. People have been asking for you to come back, as you can see through all the comments. I greatly appreciate it. You're always welcome here, man. Thank you so much for being here.
It was a good time. It's a good time.
Did it make you want to come back?
To what? Media?
Well, media or just this show?
Oh, yeah. I always want to come back here.
Okay, well.
Media much, but
we might have to continue to do it. Matt Trent, thank you, buddy. We'll talk soon.